So let's get started. Our first presenter tonight is somebody I know really well because my fund is invested in her company. Her name is Dr. Paula Muto, and she is the CEO of Uberdock. Paula, are you there?
I'm here, but Craig, my COO, is doing the presentation.
Okay.
My co-founder is unavailable, but Craig is going to, my young COO is going to be presenting. Craig?
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank you so much, Paula.
Craig.
So I am Craig Zevin. I'm the COO of Uberdock. All of you met Paula yesterday, running a number of fantastic panels. But Uberdock was founded by Paula about 4 years ago. After 25, 30 years of being a practicing vascular surgeon and trying to change healthcare from the inside, she stepped away from or out of that, continuing to practice, but also building Uberdock. And like any good software, it came out of her own personal experiences and her experience in her life. And that experience is that the complexity of today's healthcare model keeps patients and doctors from connecting for convenient, affordable, and equitable care. And that's really great as a broad statement, but the question for any software company is, but what does that mean in the user's life? What is the impact of that? And for doctors, right, that's growing overhead. It's worsening finances for all of their practice. As we've heard from many people today, it's a really negative relationship with a lot of the tech that they use on a day-to-day basis.
We're not seeing your slides, Craig.
Oh, well, that is very challenging, then I apologize. Can you see them now?
Yes.
Yes? Awesome. So I apologize for that. So growing overhead, worsening financials, negative relationship with their tech, and probably the biggest one from everything I've heard from doctors is a lack of feeling valued and a lack of feeling control in terms of your practice and the way that you share your medicine. And on the patient side, right, that's extreme wait times. I think somebody today quoted 108 days to wait to see a primary care. It's a deep sense of financial uncertainty. The average family can't absorb more than $400 in unexpected expenses. And it's highly restrictive and tenuous, right? It's tied to your employer. So this year alone, 30 million families lost access to their employer-based healthcare. But in a really simple sense, in every other product you use in your life, you know what you're going to get, you know when you're going to get it, and you know how much it's going to cost, right? And none of those things are true in healthcare for consumers, and that won't last forever. So what did we build at Uberdock? We built a really simple marketplace where you connect a patient and a doctor for direct pay healthcare. That's it. The patient goes on, they put in their zip code, they search for a specialist, they book it, and they get seen. And that's all it is. And it's in person and it's telemedicine. It's not just for primary cares or mental health, right? Every single type of specialist, there is a need for them. There's patients who need that specialist, and every specialist needs to be connected to patients. And so Uberdock simply built the connective tissue for all of those patients and doctors. And all of that was true prior to COVID, and COVID lit a match for all of it. And it was explosive growth and telemedicine and all of those things. But one of the other things is an awful lot of annual dental exams and mammograms and pap smears and things that we're not getting done that need to get done in the future. So a little Game of Thrones meme for everyone. How many patients do you think are out there waiting for care as a result of COVID? And so we have a big problem. We have a solution that we've built out in market. We've got a massive catalyzing event in COVID. And so what has that done for our business? On the doctor side, we have massively scaled our doctor network. If you offer doctors access to new patients, if you offer doctors immediate cash payment, and you build the technology directly into their workflow, they will use that product. And that bears out in our numbers. So we built this tiered model where we bring in doctors to fill our supply and be the liquidity in our marketplace. We then turn them into SaaS revenue, right? We bring them on, and then there is a subscription model adding telemedicine and other services. So they become, as the basis, our foundation, and grow into one side of the monetization of our marketplace. And the reason we can do this is we have an incredibly competitive cost per acquisition for these doctors. There are companies that are valued at 200, 300, 400 times Uberdock that have less than 1% of the doctors that we have in our network. And we see massive scale on the patient side as well. For patients, it's all about getting seen faster. It's about getting seen cheaper. And it's about not having those surprise bills. And so we saw an over 3x growth and really the upswing of the hockey stick in 2020 as patients realized those things. And so as we build this transactional revenue, which represents the other side of our marketplace, it's not just in the appointments themselves. It's in all of the post-appointment spending, whether that's prescriptions, that's blood work, or that's imaging. We allow cash pay access to all of those things. And so over time, as we're aggregating all of these purchase events, all of this transaction data, we're also aggregating the patient's data in general. And if you consolidate transactions and you consolidate data, you have permanent user stickiness on your consumer product. And so why it works is really because we're a doctor-first company. We provide the doctors the freedom to really expand out their business and choose how they want to practice. So you're available and visible to all practices, really regardless of the type of patient you see. So if you're in-person only, great. If you're telemedicine only, also good. We provide that whole front-end service to book the patient without any additional overhead for you. And you get that sense of control. It's when you want to see patients. It's how you want to see patients. If you are employed or independent, if you are early in your career and building a practice or later in your career and looking towards retirement, you have the freedom to practice in a way that works for you. On the technology side, the hook is there. New patients, immediate payment, brings doctors in, right? But we expand out beyond that and provide the tools a doctor needs to move into modern medicine, to build this digital practice. And so that centers around telemedicine. We partner with VC. Milton Chen is an advisor of ours and puts us really on the forefront of what's out there in telemedicine. We provide direct pay prescriptions for patients and home delivery, same with imaging and blood work as well. And where we really see a differentiator is in how we focus on specialty specific tools. I think that everyone sees that telemedicine is great, but we could be doing telemedicine right now because it's just video conferencing. And it's what we layer on top of that that makes it really functional for doctors. And the last one is the community. We are a physician-founded and physician-funded company, and we are all about supporting and empowering doctors. It's why we partner with Innovator MD and Mission Growth and Global Health and all of those other great groups. In terms of revenue projection, we're looking at around $8 million in net revenue next year. In 2021, you can see it broken out by subscription revenue versus transactional. We are heavily skewed towards transactional revenue in 2020, but as we hit break even towards the end of the year, over the next 2 years, you'll see us move closer to 50-50 between SaaS and transactional revenue. In terms of patient acquisition, in order to keep cost per acquisition down, we work with a number of channel partners. We have 3.4 million in signed contracts for 2021. And really rapidly growing pipeline. A few things I'll call out: state agencies like the Department of Disability, post-acute and chronic care pilots that we're running, and Uberdock India, which is the growth of our international second opinion market, will all be low cost per acquisition ways to bring on patients. In terms of market sizing between the patient transactional side and the physician SaaS side, there's only over $100 billion in addressable market there for us. So there's a little bit more data there. About the team, one of the things we consistently hear from VCs is about the strength of our team. Paula, with the experience that she has and the network of advisors that she's built, academics, clinicians, economists, the whole tech are all there because they see Paula's vision. I come from a tech and startup background, was previously a management consultant as well. So I've seen my way around a lot of businesses and startups, and I'm an operator here to see that vision out. And Brianna, who is our co-founder, has a lot of experience in customer success and building account management teams. And the three of us, plus a staff of 4 or 5 others, have scaled this massive network of doctors. We have scaled a growing network of patients and found ways to do both of those incredibly cost effectively. We have the signed contracts to scale this year. And so what we are looking to do is raise a $6 million Series A in Q1 of this year. In order to do all of those things I just talked about, for anybody who's feel free to reach share. Anybody being a physician, we're not going to get your Innovator MD membership for free because we love Innovator MD. Angel Invest, we were founded and funded by angel investors. We have always gotten that support from physicians. So any female founded companies, people of color founded companies, companies that create tech for underrepresented groups, if you have the money to angel invest, I highly encourage you to get out there and support the other physician entrepreneurs and get involved. I heard a doctor the other day say that doctors don't play nice. And that really stood out to me because that's not my experience. My experience is that every doctor we talk to about investing really just wants to be a part of the community, really just wants to be a part of building something that changes healthcare. So whatever that looks like to you as a physician entrepreneur, like go out there and get involved. And if you're interested in learning more or just chatting in general, my email is at the bottom of the screen.
Okay,
How'd I do on
awesome.
time?
Thank you. That was perfect. You, like, the alarm went off, I hit unmute and you were just finishing. So that was awesome. Nicely done, Craig. Thank you. So let's see if we can get some questions from the judges. Judges, do you want to chime in with some questions?
Sure. I'll start. This is Eric Schaefer. I was curious about two things. One is, how do you provision for sort of follow-on diagnostics or other kinds of therapies that might be more expensive post-consult? And related to that, like, do you ever facilitate the use of insurance, or how does that work for some of those things that might be more expensive?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we are really just the front door of the appointment, right? We bring the patient in for the consult, and whatever care happens after that, the patient will typically, especially if it's the more expensive care you're referring to, will then put that through their insurance. They're not required to do that, but the choice is theirs. Where we really want to expand is making more of those post-appointment care available at a cash price. So Christine Dickerson, who spoke earlier from Green Imaging, is a partner of ours who's doing exactly that with expensive imaging. And so as we grow as a company, we are going to find more of those partners so that we can make more of those things available. But in the short term, that is typically going to an insurance-based cost. Otherwise, we do not integrate or touch insurance at all. We are a completely cash model. We have some patients who try to get the Uberdock cost reimbursed by their insurance or counted towards a maximum, but that's really on the kind of patient's discretion.
Hey, excuse me 1 second. Somebody needs to mute CliniOps. Thank you. Go ahead, Craig. Thank you for that. Hey, Craig, we had a question from the audience. What's the valuation of your company for your Series A? What's the pre-money on that?
I would say that would be entirely dependent on a term sheet. So I wouldn't be comfortable putting a number on that. Roundly somewhere between 30 and 50.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from the judges? I have a couple from the audience if we don't.
Gary, can you hear me?
Hey, Gary.
Yeah, hey.
Yep, go ahead.
I just want to disclose, both Oren and I are part of Global Health Impact Fund, and we are invested in Uberdock, just as a disclosure. So Craig, what's the, given the model, it's easy to get the doctors, what's the source of the patients? How do you market and get patients in the door?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So we focused, for the first half of 2020, we really focused on direct-to-consumer growth. And what we found is that the demand is there, but it's incredibly expensive to scale early in a direct-to-consumer market, right? You see companies like Roman who are caught in this cost per acquisition trap because they constantly need to pay to bring on new patients. And so our goal is to avoid that by kickstarting our direct-to-consumer model with some of those channel partnerships I mentioned. So I mentioned the Department of Disability, right? That's 17,000 appointments next year. International Second Opinions, 10,000 appointments. So we're finding these aggregators who will really kickstart that side of our business as the direct-to-consumer side matures over the period of a couple of years.
Okay. What's your current revenue?
Craig, go ahead, sorry. What's your current revenue, Craig?
We did around 100K in top line revenue this year, in net revenue this year, and we have 3.4 contracted for next year against a goal of 6.5.
So we have one question from the audience who asks, will this be something that people who don't have money to purchase your services, is there a channel for them to use to access Uberdoc?
Yeah, absolutely.
My grants.
Paula, I will let you answer this question.
Yeah, actually, that is one of my missions, of course, being working on the front lines. We have applied for 3 government grants, and we also have our GSA status, so that patients who can't afford healthcare could go through a grant. I mean, this whole thing, our mission is price transparency and access, and allowing the doctor to be the one in charge. You know, we don't like these models where doctors are being paid as little as $20 for a telemedicine visit. Doctors are highly valued. It's not a race to the bottom. These are specialists. We take away the middleman. We are just the glue that connects the two. And there's no reason with people who are challenged in terms of their healthcare access that our model can't supply that.
Okay, great. And do you expect, or because you've now had a little bit of time in market, have you seen people who used Uberdoc for their first appointment with one doctor come back and use it again for an initial appointment with another doctor? In other words, repeat business from customers.
Go ahead, Craig, because that's a marketing question about how many times do you visit specialists?
We absolutely have, and that's a big focal point for us, and I think why those other partnerships for patient transactions are important. Your average person goes to 1.5 doctors a year, meaning you're a 1.5 times a year use case. If we bring in prescriptions, that could be a monthly use case. If we bring in patient communication and other things, that's a daily use case. And so we can consolidate patients down from an annual use case to a daily use case. And then there's a lower kind of reacquisition cost and a higher, LTV. And that's kind of how we transition that model over time for exactly that reason.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Craig. Our time is up. I'm going to ask Uli to throw the poll up. Everybody has a chance now to rate Uberdoc. We have 1 minute, so get your votes in. Let's get as many people voting as possible. More is better. Craig, that was a great job. Paul, thanks for chiming in. What's that?
I said I'm allowed to give myself a 5, right?
You can do whatever you want, but don't tell us. Voting is private. Okay, so we have about 30 seconds left.
Can we vote by mail?
You can vote by mail, but it won't get here in time, and I don't want to have any court cases, so let's not do that. Okay, the poll is closed. I'm just going to jot down these answers, and while I do that, Anka Disk will be coming up next. I'll do that introduction in a moment, but you can start getting set up for that.